G'day all, number one Machop fan here with another episode of Machop's Musings. There's something I've noticed recently in my area, in our Premier Challenges, and that's that we're getting fewer and fewer casual players. It's mostly just the regulars nowadays. In fact, just last weekend, the only players we actually got were regulars. There were no casual players at all. So, the question in this one is a simple one. Where did the casuals go? Or more to the point, why aren't they not going to Premier Challenges or any Pokemon tournaments anymore? I put this question to a couple of Australian Pokemon groups on Facebook that I'm in, and actually got quite a bit of robust discussion. And I've collated the most common answers into this little presentation, addressing the answers that they gave, and discussing what is being done or can be done about them. Okay, so first of all, late announcements. Quite infamously, regionals last season in Australia were announced 2 weeks, only a fortnight, before the first one actually ran, and then they ran once every week, as has always been the case in Australia. But that announcement was so late that for a long time we were convinced that we were not going to get regionals at all. This season hasn't been as bad. I feel like I've been teething problems a bit because ESL has taken over from Nintendo Australia in actually running these tournaments now that they actually are pay to enter, which we'll address later, and actually give cash prizes, which Nintendo isn't allowed to do. But they've taken the feedback that we've given in regards to that, and they've improved vastly with the upcoming season. They've already announced 3 new regionals, and that they're going to be spaced out for the entire season, which is actually a first in Australia. Again, only 3 regionals are being announced. 1 in Perth, 1 in Brisbane, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, but we had more than a couple of weeks' notice this time, and 1 in Melbourne. Which I think the Melbourne one's to offset the fact that there's an international championship in Sydney now. Well, that does make me wonder, because if they only did 3 regionals last season, and it looks like they're going to do that again this season. But Auckland isn't one of those, and that worries me. So there's still, because Auckland regionals are the only tournament that New Zealand ever gets. So there's definitely still room for improvement. But on top of that, tournament organisers and the venues they work with should be planning the entire season schedule of Premier Challenges and mid-season showdowns at the start of the season. I know there's a place in Kingston, Tasmania, that has that down pat. The rest of the country, the rest of the world, should lead by their example, where they don't, because that is a brilliant system. That is done right. That should be expanded. Secondly, there's the issue of distance from events, including Premier Challenges. In Australia, Premier Challenges are typically held in our largest cities, and only them. So like in Melbourne and its suburbs, Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane, Perth, and Kingston. Not even Hobart, the capital of Tasmania. Only specific places in our massive states. If you don't live in those little areas, then you're pretty much shut out. In Victoria, where I'm from, they used to have regional Premier Challenges in Morwell, way out east in Gippsland, which is good. And they had a couple in Ballarat, out west. Again, good. More accessible to more local communities. And more encouraging for casual players to come in as well. But last season, or at least since the 2017 format came to be, they didn't really do that. I actually remember Morwell actually did quite a few Premier Challenges over a short space of time. I was only able to attend one, but... So they did that very well, and I think they should do it again. Definitely. And that should also be expanded. In more places, like Bendigo could do it, Geelong, even further out, like Warrnambool, Ararat, Shepparton, Mildura as well. Mildura actually used to run a couple of Premier Challenges, but haven't since, I think, 2016. Difficult for the more hardcore players to get to. Like, I've never been able to go to them because they're so far away. But encouraging for local players, definitely. So yeah, expand on that. More Premier Challenges in more places. And you'll be... Just doing that will make it more accessible, for sure. Another issue that was addressed is actually one I kind of disagree with. Stale meta with common teams. Casual players claim that there's a lack of variety. That the only teams you see are the extremely popular standard teams like Chalk in 2015, the Big Six in 2016, and Fake PG in 2017. But while archetypes are common, they are not the be-all and end-all. There is flexibility in being creative with your own ideas for teams. And the vast majority of the best teams had original ideas, original cores, were good stuff, so to speak. People have actually said that the trading card game has more variety because of its archetypes. But I, for one, don't see how that's different. Chalk, Big Six, Fake PG, Ryoga, Driftblim Lele, Eevee, Mimilax, they are all archetypes. We have them in VGC, just like they've got such in TCG as well. And many of those lesser seen teams are being showcased on YouTube. I've kind of done it myself with a Gravity team in 2016, and the team I used in what little we did of Machop to the Top 2017. Also in live streams, you see a wide variety of different kinds of teams, even at the top level. Like I said, many of the best teams are original. One thing that could be done to encourage that kind of thing would be, in the past we've always seen team building guides towards the start of the season, when the meta is at its most chaotic. But when things simmer down and the archetypes really start to form and become common, you can do more team building guides to adjust, so people can more easily be prepared for those teams and be creative in how they do it. I just watched a really good team building guide from one James Beck. I might link it in the description if I remember. He promised he'll at least try and do another one later in the season. That is done right. That is me giving credit where credit is due. I'm not going to do any team building guides, by the way, because I can't build teams to save my life, quite frankly. So, I should really try not to anymore. Or at least, I might stick to the archetypes because it's easier. The archetypes are actually, while they look unoriginal, they could be seen as a good way for new players to start. It's important to learn how these archetypes tick, so you can know how they win and how they lose. So I personally see them as an open door, not a closed one. But that's just me. I know everyone's different. A newer issue, especially in Australia, is paying to compete. Now that things are becoming more like privatized, if you will. Well, even not with privatization, because when the Pokemon Company International is in charge of tournaments directly, they still have to seek payments so they can... Because obviously they're not for profit, but, as far as I'm aware, but they still need to get enough money to maintain these tournaments. And that's what paying to compete is for. And not just to maintain the tournaments, but also the cash prizes. But there's also the issue of having to pay for smaller tournaments that don't give cash prizes, your Premier Challenges, your mid-season showdowns. and they're becoming turn-offs as well. I know Premier Challenges used to be free in some cases. It depended on the venue. But I can't remember the last time that was the case. For Yonks, they've all been paid entry. And I can only see that problem getting worse, really, rather than better. But what we could do is encourage more grassroots events, which could serve as like entry-level tournaments, have them for free, little to no prizes, and maybe make them or combine them with VGC tutorials. Since they're entry-level, they're the best places for newer players to learn. Grassroots tournaments do exist. Poker Melbourne does them every so often, and they're quite popular. They're also paid to enter, but they go to charity. So, alright, so the next issue, which was brought up by one of our more senior players. No, I'm not calling him old, even though I think he's older than I am. Championship point return on investment. I've noticed this as well since Australia started doing the championship point system in 2015. In Premier Challenges especially, each season they've been worth less and less points. Like, in 2015, the winner of a Premier Challenge would get 40 points. 2016, 30. 2017, 20. And now in 2018, it's only going to be 15. That is increasingly top-heavy, and not very good for encouraging people to come in. Again, that's an issue that's only getting worse. Something that needs to be addressed if you want to encourage more people to come in. So, go back to the old system where you gave out more points. And also, make the kickers more lenient. Typically, like, only the top half would get championship points, pretty much anyone who will go positive. And in smaller tournaments, that's less likely. So maybe make it so that the top 75% or the top 67% or so would get points. Even if it's a small amount, it's still something and still adds up. Also, slowly we've been needing to get more championship points to qualify for the World Championships, which is kind of fair enough, but doesn't work well when we're getting less points per tournament. That makes the higher bar higher and further out of reach, especially for younger players. Especially for those who want to go to the World Championships. Some may just give up. Oh, too hard basket, I can't be bothered. And that's not the right attitude. That's not an attitude we want to encourage. We want to encourage people to try. We want to encourage people to participate. We want to encourage people to engage. And the way things are going with championship points aren't doing that. Next issue, which is another one I kind of disagree with, but there is room for improvement. Team building remains labour intensive. There are plenty of shortcuts where people can design and try out teams before they can put them, before they build them in-game. But once you start going in-game, things do get tedious. Breeding takes a long time, even with all your O-powers, your Roto-Lotto stuff. Roto-powers, I think they're called. Can you tell I haven't gone far in Ultra Sun yet? Yeah, breeding is still difficult. Although I have noticed things have been getting easier and easier and easier with each generation. Like in the olden days, we're talking Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, the Everstone did not pass down natures. There was no way to pass down IVs en masse. And only the female would pass down things like... So only one gender, I can't remember if it was the female, only one gender would pass down certain things like moves and IVs, stuff like that. EV training is also difficult, although you've got your power items. You used to have super training, that was really good. Super training should definitely come back. That was really good. Also, with getting experience, it's the quickest way with getting experience to get your Pokemon up to the level they need for moves or to get to level 50, which is the minimum requirement, is by rematching with players, like NPCs, actual trainers. In some games, the only way you can really do that quickly and reliably and easily is by beating the living daylights out of the Elite Four over and over and over. I remember in games past, as recently as Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, there was an item called the Versus Seeker, when you could use the Versus Seeker, and any trainer nearby, if they want to, can rematch you whenever they want. I remember in particular in Pokemon Diamond there was a socialite and a rich man who gave a lot of money, especially combined with the amulet coin, if you rematch them, and I used to farm money out of them. Talk about Robin Hood. I could see the same thing happening with farming for experience if you had like a Chansey trainer or Blissey trainer kind of thing doing the same thing. Disband the Versus Seeker with them. That was easy, that was good, that was encouraging, and that helped me a lot. Heaps. Then there's the issue of IVs. They've always been difficult. But they've improved with hyper training with the bottle caps. That was really good. All I'd suggest there is make the bottle caps easier to get. Even just farming for them is tedious. I know Ray Rizzo had a video. Ray Rizzo had a video. Where you could farm bottle caps using Festival Plaza, and it did kind of look somewhat labor intensive. I'm pretty sure he still has the guide. If he does, I'll put it in the description below as well. Again, shout out, thank you, Ray. Okay, next issue. And this one is more personal. This one's more interactive. This is something the community can really do better. Some people are saying that the community is toxic or elitist. And I confess I've been guilty of that myself. I've been very elitist. I've taken pride in being a better player. This season has really hit me hard. I've struggled big time. I didn't even make triple figures with championship points. That wasn't my goal, but I still have goals. And but it's become more difficult than ever to actually reach them, or even just to keep up with the rest of the community. And that's taken its toll on me as a person, combined with what's happened beyond Pokemon. Now, and it actually reached a climax at a recent Premier Challenge where I got creamed by someone who is actually one of our best players. I should know better. And I cracked it, basically. I embarrassed myself, I embarrassed the community by cracking it. And I am sorry. I am sincerely sorry for doing that. But even then, things have just been getting worse for me in terms of skill. And I guess that's part of the reason I haven't done Machop to the top. Because I don't have the confidence anymore. Because I keep getting knocked down so many pegs by so many good players, and even new players passing me by. And that's another point I'd like to bring up as well. New players. We have been getting new players. It's wrong to just dismiss them as, oh, they're new, they don't know what they're doing, I can beat them easily. I've been there, I got punished. A new player who I've since actually befriended, I remember facing in round 1 of a Premier Challenge longer ago, losing, and then he actually made top cut. So he was better than the stereotype of the casual, despite it being his first tournament, and I say congratulations to him. I think he made it all the way to the top 4 as well. So yeah, don't underestimate someone just because they're new. You should encourage them, you should congratulate them, and those who aren't as good should see the congratulations and see that as motivation to get better. Also, just remember, have fun. It's just a game. Don't take it too seriously. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, I've taken it a bit too seriously nowadays. I suppose it's partially because of most of the items that were Pokemon related that were on my bucket list. To go undefeated in Swiss rounds, to compete at the World Championships, I've ticked off. And all that's left for me now is to win a tournament. I have never won a tournament, even though I've been competing for 11 years. So now it's very much all or nothing. And I'm not taking the nothing part well, because I haven't got the all part yet. But at the same time, having that attitude is still bad. Because it's making Pokemon like work for me rather than enjoyment. So I'm starting to take a step back, clear my mind a bit. It's like tilt, basically. So I gotta rest, take my mind off competitive Pokemon for a while, says the guy who's doing a competitive Pokemon related video, and spend time doing other things. This late in the season, I can actually spend that time getting ready for next season, and that's what I plan to do. I've already got a few teams I'm inspired to do, some of which may even appear on Machop to the top if I can get the confidence. Actually, I think one of them's a QR team. If that's the case, then I'll definitely use that. Stay tuned. Watch this space, but no promises. The last thing, Hygiene. I'm sure most of you knew that this one was going to come up. I haven't noticed it much personally. Maybe I've gone nose blind. Like they say in the British ads I saw so much while I was in the UK recently. But some people do have habits of not cleaning themselves up when they get ready in the morning. How is this being addressed? That depends on the individual. Some do it well, and I admit I shower, I use deodorants before I go to a tournament. Like, in the morning. I'm not a morning person, but I'm still willing to do it. And I'm not the most mature of people, so if I can do it, anyone can. So, what can be done? What can you do? Shower. Use soap. Use deodorant. And bring deodorant with you to a tournament for emergencies. But make sure the deodorant isn't too strong. Because some people have actually said that even the deodorant becomes a problem. So yeah, use something that's enough, but not something that's overpowering. If worse comes to worse, use perfume. Even if you're a bloke, you don't need to stick with gender stereotypes as an excuse. That's everything I've got, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if that was everything. If there's anything else I've missed, any other ideas, any feedback, anything that's different, or even anything that's done right overseas that could be done here or anywhere. Because some places can lead by example, like Kingston, Tasmania, like I said before, with their Premier Challenge schedule. If you've got feedback from things I've done right, feedback from things I've missed, feedback from things I've said or done wrong, feel free to leave a comment. This is an important discussion, and I really want to see what the rest of the world says about the issue. Anyway, that's it from me for now. I think that's my longest Machop's musings yet, actually. That'll do. Once I've finished playing Pokemon Ultra Sun, in the midst of everything else I've got to do beyond Pokemon, hopefully Machop to the top will come back. Hopefully. No promises though. Anyway, whenever that'll be, see you next time.